Hi, everybody. I'm Isidora, and I'm here today to talk about online piano lessons and online learning in general. And I invited one of my favorite students today to join this conversation, who happens to be a piano teacher as well. Mallory is the owner of a music school in Oregon, USA, and she teaches children. I think the span of age is from 4 to 8 years old. She's going to correct me if I'm wrong. And what can I say? She's very much organized, which is great when it comes to piano practicing. She's kind, she's funny, she's witty. And what more can I say about you? Hi, Mallory. How are you? Welcome.
Thank you. I'm doing pretty good. And you're definitely one of my favorite piano teachers. So.
Thank you. Yeah. I feel this is an incredibly important conversation because we were all forced to change the way how we learn, how we grow a couple of years ago due to pandemic and lockdown. And I feel like there was a huge amount of people who were totally up for it and up for a challenge, because there are a lot of challenges when it comes to online piano learning and teaching. But I also feel like there was a huge group of people who were, I cannot say were against it, but definitely not up for it, maybe because of those challenges. I don't know. What do you think about it?
I know I was one of the people that was adamantly against online lessons. I had been presented with the idea to move and offer online things many times before the pandemic, and I would give people a piece of my mind and let them know how awful of an idea that was. And once the pandemic forced us to move online, I changed my tune very quickly.
Yeah. And why did
now
you
we
think
function
like that?
continuing online.
Yeah, me too. Well, why did you think like that?
I thought it was so important, especially when you were learning an instrument technically correct, to be able to have that in-person interaction and like the physical touch. But it was also because it's music specifically. Music is something that you can't just necessarily hear. Live music is totally different when then you just have it on a recording. And so I didn't think that it would transfer well over, but like I said, I've changed my tune. I corrected myself. I was wrong.
Yeah. I started actually with online piano lessons years back, way before pandemic. But when I look where I was at then and now, there's a huge difference, of course. But I had some students from Oregon. Actually, they were living here and they had to move back to Oregon, and they asked me, like, could we stay in touch, whatever. And then it occurred to me, okay, we could maybe have piano lessons via Skype. And then that's basically all I had. I had mobile phone, I had like Skype and upright acoustic piano, and that was it. And of course, first lesson was a huge mess, but it was a long way, actually. You have to adjust many things in terms of method, how you teach, and also obviously have to level up in terms of gear, tech gear. And then I also had to buy a digital piano because it's easier like that. And yeah, so many adjustments. What do you think about it?
Oh yeah, we moving online was super difficult at first because most of my teachers only had their computers as well. And so
Exactly.
to get that set up so that we could have quality lessons at first was super difficult. I had to buy microphones and webcams, make it so that you can see split screens, and
Exactly.
and finding a platform. It was just all at once and ridiculous. But
yeah, and you did such a great research, and you influenced me as well. When I saw your setup, I was like, I want to have this too. And it's so great. I mean, it's so great when somebody already, even if you want to invest in tech gear, even if you want to level up, it's difficult to choose the right camera or to choose the right mic. So it's so much easier when somebody already tried it out. For specifically for piano lessons. So we should all change thoughts, I think.
So slightly just off for whatever reason microphones are. I'm not a techie kind of person. No, it's an awful lesson. And so it's so important just to have that good quality sound.
Yeah, and also it's very important to use the right software. I feel that is also very important. We use Rock Out Loud. We both
Mhm.
use it. And that is like my first choice for sure. But do you use, because there are a lot of softwares out there. So do you use anything else besides that one?
I only use Rock Out Loud, and then for 2 lessons a week, we use Zoom. And it's just because if a student's device is too far out of date, it won't work with Rock Out Loud.
Yeah.
But we have a studio of almost 200 students again, and there's only 2 students who can't use Rock Out Loud. So that
Yeah.
was pretty good.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah. I also, but do you have students, those two students, it's just because of the computer or the headphones? Because I have some students who just don't like using the headphones, and then I hear some echo, and it's
Mhm.
difficult. Then it's difficult to talk. It's difficult, especially it's difficult to, if you want to show something, to play them something more complicated. If you hear yourself, it's a little bit difficult. So those are the cases when I where I use Skype actually. But yeah.
That makes sense. I've never actually used Skype for lessons of any kind, but with Rock Out Loud, since it has the 2 features, I end up going in and I do it without the headphones with students, and I make sure to wear them. But there's too many of them, at least in my personal studio, who don't like to wear headphones either, or they'll get headphones and they aren't the right kind, so they'll have like a little microphone on there, or they'll be Bluetooth headphones, and so it doesn't give you quite the same effect. But I still find Rock Out Loud to be the better platform.
Yeah.
So
And Rock Out Loud especially is great because you can, both parties can play at the same time. So we had a rehearsal the other day, small
mhm,
rehearsal. You were singing, I was playing, and it works
yes,
totally fine because Skype, you cannot do that with Skype
no,
or
or with
any other,
Zoom.
yeah, or with Zoom. Yeah. So
You can
it's,
talk over each other even in Rock Out Loud, and there's not a problem. It's,
yeah,
it's so
and
cool.
yeah, it is. So it's kind of adjusted specifically for musicians.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
So
created by music teachers during the pandemic for virtual music lessons. So,
yeah,
like, put
which
that
is
little plug in
incredibly
there.
important. Yeah, which is incredibly important for things to develop because there are a lot of unknown things still, and a lot of things to like develop and revolve around, you know, tech gear and even the method how we, because we have to adjust piano lessons a
It's
little bit.
completely different teaching in person versus teaching
Yeah.
online. There was definitely a learning curve to figure out how to communicate effectively.
Definitely. Yeah. And also, I feel like students have to get used to it as well, not just the teachers, because
Mhm.
they're used to one certain one form of piano lesson, and they also had to transfer to a different kind of communication.
Mhm.
So yeah.
A pro of online learning is you can be like kind of anywhere. I don't know how to explain it. You can be like anywhere, like in the world, and so be taught like by your instructor. For example, you can be in another country and kind of still be online, being taught piano lessons. I think a con is internet problems and technical problems.
Yeah, it was difficult for them as well.
I did
So
find that a lot of students were so ready to jump online and did way better online than
yeah,
before. So
well,
that
they're
was pretty
born
cool
with
too.
it. Yeah, they're born with
This is true.
computers, I'd say. And that's so much different. Because I see now 1-year-olds, 2-year-olds scrolling the phones. So yeah, it's so much different for them. It's easier, I'd say.
It
It's
is.
easier. Yeah. So speaking of which, you're specialized in little children, small
Yeah.
children. So if a 4-year-old can do it, I think anybody can.
Yes. And I have this one particular student, and she started online at 4 because they just
Wow.
didn't want to wait any longer. And she's still with me now. She has performed in so many virtual recitals, and 2 days ago she just performed in her very first real life in-person recital. and she did awesome.
Bravo.
Yes.
So what do you say? Is it a stretch or to give a piano lesson like that, online piano lesson to a 4-year-old? Or
I don't think
it's a
so. I
natural
think
thing?
it's still really important. There were a couple lessons where she had a friend come over, and so her and her friend both did piano lessons together, and she got to help her friend learn a couple of the songs, like Charlie Chipmunk going up the Black Keys. And she's so excited to perform now all the time. And she's what now, 6, I think, maybe a very fresh 6. And she just went up to do her very first recital and did glorious. And it wouldn't have been quite like that if she was just completely brand new. But she had all of this experience kind of online. And so she's really grown in a lot of other respects.
Yeah. So, and do you see the difference when you teach in person and when you teach online in regards to those kids, 4-year-olds, 3-year-olds?
So I teach 3-year-olds in person. I don't teach them online. I found that 4 is about the youngest age to go. If it's younger than that, it's basically then you teaching mom and dad how to teach them.
Yeah.
And it's just not very effective. But for as long as mom and dad or an older sibling, at least as you're getting used to the lesson format, are there to help, it goes over really well.
Okay. And do they have to help more when you're teaching online, or it's the
I
same?
think so, yes, because a lot of times when they're real little and you're in person, I can physically show them and I can point to what I'm talking about, but I can't do that very well. Yeah. When we're online, I have a bunch of tools so that I can show them, but sometimes when they're that young, you just can't quite put those pieces together. You need to directly see it. And so that's where mom or dad come in, and they can go over and they can be like, no, this is the set of 3 black keys. You see 1, 2, 3. We've been working on our counting.
Yeah. So those are the adjustments we were talking about. One of those, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, I admire you for it because, you know, the youngest one of my students, I think, was 6. And, you know, I wouldn't say it was a good experience because I usually take children about at the age of 8 or 9. But I
8 is usually when I graduate students on to the next teacher. I like that 3 to 6. That's like the sweet spot.
Yeah. And I prefer working with older children and even teenagers. Yeah. So it's also the matter of preference for the teacher as well, I'd say.
Yes, I have found like there are some teenagers that I really jive with, but I work real well with the really small ones. They think I'm so cool and I think they're so fun and we can just have a good time together and learn some things.
Yeah, so that's great. But not many schools offer that kind of program for sure. So you really specialize yourself in that area.
Yeah,
I'd say. So yeah, bravo.
It's very fun.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I did a little research on social networks. I was actually interested to know what were the concerns that people have or had in regards to online piano learning. And so maybe we can discuss some of the most interesting ones. So yeah.
Oh, I hear a lot of times parents saying that, oh, they're just a beginner. They really need that in person at first so that they can
I hear that too. Yeah, I
learn about the instrument. And it's like, well, they can also learn about it if you have it at home.
Yeah, I mean, but there is an advantage if they come to the studio because sometimes students just have a simple keyboard at home. They don't even have the piano. Yes. And if they come to your studio and you have a baby grand or grand piano, so they have a chance to experience playing on the real piano.
Mhm.
But that is an advantage. But if you go to somebody's home and teach them on their keyboard, then it's the same thing, right?
I would say it's close to the same thing. It can be a little bit different just because of that experience when you're playing on a different instrument than the one you typically do. But in the end, as long as they're both the real instrument, that would be the same.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Okay,
just
so
slight change in one.
exactly. So I have here one concern. Somebody said it can get impersonal and the burnout can come. So what do you think about it?
Well, you and I have never met in person, and
Exactly.
I feel like we're
I
pretty
never
personal
feel,
overall.
yeah. I never feel that we never, I actually sometimes I would like to meet you in person, but I never feel like we're impersonal, even though we never met. Yeah.
Yes, I totally agree. It would be a very long drive.
Yeah. Flight across the ocean. Yeah, for sure. And what do you think about the burnout? Do you think it has anything to do with online lessons or?
I think that really depends, not only on the teacher themselves, but also on the student. If you aren't well prepared enough for that online lesson, oh, by golly, you are going to get burned out so fast.
Yeah,
if you are also, though, overly doing everything, you've got to take some time for yourself and sleeping and eating. You can't just only be researching the new technology.
Yeah, exactly.
So like that burnout comes the same way though when you're not virtually. Like if you do too much of anything, you're gonna have a problem and burn out from it.
Yeah, but I feel like it's the same in person as well. If you didn't prepare your lesson, I think the burnout is gonna come real soon.
Yeah.
So
you start glancing at the clock a whole lot. And it just seems to be moving slowly.
And yeah, it's moving slowly. So yeah, maybe the person did not prepare one's lesson.
Yeah, that's typically though, with burnout, for me at least, it has to do with the preparedness of one of us, or also how much screen time have you had in the day. If you've already been staring at a screen for 8 to 10 hours, then doing another one for your piano lesson. Some students, they're great with it. Some of them just need a nap.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's true. That's true. But also like when you teach whole day online, but it happens to me, there can be a burnout. I'd say there can be a burnout, but I think it's the same if you teach in person. So maybe the best option is to mix a little bit.
Do a little hybrid.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I definitely have liked that in the hybrid studio that we've started creating, because then we'll have some students that they'll be there for in-person lessons like usually, but then every once in a while, if they're going to be gone or anything, then we can just do it virtually. They don't lose anything and we can just pick up where we left off.
Yeah, and that
There's
is
no
also
extra anything.
and that is also one pro that kind of did not exist before. So somebody can travel or whatever and still have piano lessons. Okay, and the next one said, if it's only online lessons without having actual meets at least once in a while, some technical nuances never get unearthed. So what do you think about it?
I don't necessarily think that that's totally true. You can, for the most part, see, as long as you have the proper setup for virtual piano lessons, you can see if they're not using the right technique. There's so many different ways to explain technique in different ways. I've been using Piano Safari, and for the young kids, it brings these concepts in by comparing it to different animals. And so using the weight of your arm, it's like a heavy, sleepy lion paw. You can see if a student's just throwing their fingers down at the piano. And then same, if you can see their top view, you can tell if they're bending the wrong ways, or if they're even expressing that something doesn't feel right. You can still get all of those technical things, even if you weren't just sitting there and watching them in person.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I feel the same way. But as from the perspective of a student, do you see me when I'm explaining something? Or how much do you think it's important to have different camera views? You just mentioned top view, and then there's a side view. I know you have a lot of them.
Yes.
I use two, but basically I have three. I almost never use three. Mostly I use two, but I know you have like, I don't know, four or even more.
I have so many, and then I have some of them that can then change the screens on the inside and move them around. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, but do you feel that is really important? I feel that is really important, especially for the young ones. The top view is super important, so they can see hands when we're explaining.
Yeah, I super agree. One of the first songs that I started working on with you was the Chopin piece. I don't remember what it's called, but it has, I think, an E major going up in arpeggios.
Yeah.
And I was not getting the technique for that for a really long time.
Yeah,
and so it was that top view of you then showing like the exact wrist movement and slowly moving your arm and opening your hand. So yeah, as an adult, it was helpful. Helpful for the little ones too.
Yeah, it's really valuable, I think, because way back when I started, I had only one camera. And then even when the pandemic started, I had only one view. And then I met you and I was so impressed with your setup. And then you told me about the top view and additional cameras. And when I got them, it was a huge game changer for me and for my lessons, because some of the children just couldn't, when you're trying to tell them which note they're supposed to play or some simple melody, whatever, they just couldn't get it. And with that top view camera, oh my, it was such a huge change, positive change.
Yes, game changer. Leveled up.
Exactly. It's all about leveling up.
When you started switching more to online, did you start then sending lesson notes and assignments to students in a different format as well? Or did you already have something and you stayed consistent?
I started sending emails, and also I started recording videos for them as a form of help while they're practicing. And I found that was a really valuable resource. And also I kept that in person as well later on, because before I was using notebooks and then I used to write down their homework. But since my handwriting is a mess, once I remember, I think I told you that story once, I did ask my student, like, can you read your homework? I wrote down to do this or that. And she was like, that handwriting, I cannot. And so it really helped me to send emails, especially that now kids, they have their own emails, so you can send it, and also videos. I think that's really valuable. So do you do it too?
Yeah, at first I had notes that I would write out in pretty incredible detail. I probably give students way too many notes, but I found tons of fun assignment sheets for students, but they don't really look at them that much during the week. So I started using a program, My Music Staff, and that has a section in there to send assignment sheets and notes for students, and that keeps a backlog of them. But you can also, at the end of the lesson, send them to the parents and the students. And so it's kind of that extra assurity that, oh, it's not just like little Johnny that got the lesson notes. Mom also knows what he should be doing.
Yeah, and your whole studio, everybody there is using it, right?
Yeah. So then that way too, if a teacher's subbing for somebody else, they can go back and see everything that that student has done. And so they can just pick right up.
Yeah, which is great. I was trying it out too, but I can't say I'm really using it, but I think it's pretty cool. It's an awesome software.
It's really cool too, because you can upload content that you use frequently and then link that in with student notes so you don't have to continuously do it. And so that's just been really nice, because then as long as they sign in, then they can access everything.
Yeah, true story. Okay, so maybe we should move to the next one. Somebody's saying I have problems hearing some dynamics on Skype. So yeah, I know you're I don't know, you said you never used Skype, and people keep telling me that like it's outdated. I still use it. I think it's fine. Just I'd say you have to use the microphone with it. And we did try a couple of Skype lessons, and then you suggested Rock Out Loud.
Did we ever try Skype?
I think we did once or twice.
Maybe. I do
And
not
then we got
remember.
away from it. Yeah. But yeah, definitely. I mean, with the Rock Out Loud, we both use microphones, but we didn't in the beginning. Only you had the microphone. I didn't have one. And
And it definitely, it didn't seem like it was lacking, but then once you got a microphone, there was an incredible difference.
Yeah, I felt it too. I felt it too. And you're my only student who has the microphone, and it's the best connection ever. But I think you have the best internet as well. But still, microphone is so valuable.
Yes, then you can actually hear what's really happening.
Yeah, I'd say not just if you use Skype, but if you use any software. But with Skype, I'd say you definitely have to use it. At least one teacher or students have to use it.
Mm-hmm.
So somebody said I missed the physical touch. We did talk about it. My teacher will sometimes position my hands and wrists. She will do things like tap on the top of my hand to demonstrate the amount of pressure or show me how relaxed my arms. I can also see what she's demonstrating much more clearly in person. So what do you think about it? There was
sounds like they need some more camera angles.
I think so too.
Yeah, no, the physical touch can be a really important one, especially for like kinesthetic learners. But we have lessons. I've definitely leveled up in piano.
Yeah, exactly.
There's been no physical touch, and there's so many schools now that have hard rules against that, and so that there's a zero tolerance, absolutely no touching policy, even for like sitting up straighter or helping with the curve of their fingertips. So if that's already happening across the board for in person, it's not going to be a long missed
I can get the part with the physical touch because it can really be helpful, but not all of the students feel comfortable when you show them how to move their hands or make a specific movement like that.
Some students very clearly do not want physical touch.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's not a necessity for sure. But you have to develop the way you communicate, the way you explain, and as you said, more camera angles, that for sure.
But I feel like it's a little bit more important to really have a instructor that you connect well with and understand how to learn from. Yeah. With virtual lessons. I think it's just a little bit more important that you're picky about who you decide to go to.
Yeah.
Than in person.
Exactly. Because of the impersonal thing somebody mentioned before, Maybe it is true for some people, but if you connect well as people, then it's totally fine. And it's important not just for adults. I mean, it's important for if you're having somebody, some 8-year-old or a 4-year-old, and you as a teacher on the other side, it's also important that you get along pretty good.
Yes. If you and that, 4-year-old do not jive well, it's not going to be a good time for either of you.
Yeah, it's just not going to be fun. And if it's not fun, then simply it's not going to work.
No, it's
The
not a good
burnout's
time.
going to come real soon.
Very quickly.
Yeah. Okay. So we could just wrap up this conversation. So what do you say? Do you prefer online or in-person lessons? So let's just be honest as piano teachers.
For me, it depends on the student.
Okay.
Some students 100% in person. Some have done so much better online than we have ever done in person before, and some of them do great in both, but very clearly for me, it depends on the student for which kind of lesson I'm going to enjoy with them.
Yeah. And even if I'm a strong advocate of online piano lessons, I'd say the love is equal. I love both of those forms of lessons, online and in person, because I think that both have some pros and cons. What do you
I would
think?
definitely agree. There's some major pros for virtual lessons. You can find a teacher despite geographical location.
Exactly.
You being in Serbia, me being in Oregon.
Yeah. And especially because now more and more teachers are teaching online, so you can no matter the level of your piano playing skill, you can find somebody for you. Even if you're at the university, there are some, I'd say, famous teacher who started teaching online. So there's an incredible opportunity lying out there. And also, I like the fact that now a lot of people open their minds towards giving and sharing and also receiving knowledge. And it's so much easier these days to learn. I'd say it's easier. It's some people are saying it's more difficult now from the start of the pandemic, but I'd say it's easier because you can get to almost anybody you want, and especially because it's a never ending thing. It's a lot of things are just unraveling, and there are a lot of that is unknown still, and a lot of things are developing. And I think online learning is just gonna develop and become better and better and better in the future,
especially with all of the like VR technology things that are happening.
yeah.
We're, I think, only a few steps away from a whole new type of music learning.
Yeah, and not just that,
just
but
online
also,
learning.
Yeah. But not just that, but I think teachers are also adjusting their methods of teaching to online learning. I see a huge progress and change since the pandemic started.
My teaching has drastically changed since the pandemic started, even now that we've returned to in person.
Exactly.
Radically different.
Yeah. So you do you take some great things from online learning to in-person learning?
Oh yeah, I have a whole lot of like apps and games for music learning that now kids are extra super excited to be able to play it in person, because then they get to be the ones to push the buttons. And so it's been pretty fun.
Yeah, it's been great. Yeah, and I do arrangements of popular songs because I find that kids and adults.
And adults.
Yeah, love playing popular pieces as well, in addition to classical pieces.
I prefer playing more popular songs because I'm more familiar with them, and I, for example, hear them like every day, and I listen to them every day, and I'm more intrigued and like interested to learn popular songs rather than like classical music. And yeah, just in general, I prefer popular songs.
Yeah,
Your favorite
just
songs?
love Disney.
Yeah. Many people love Disney, including me. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. So thank you for today.
Yeah,
Thank you
thank
for
you.
tuning in, and hope this conversation was helpful for the ones who have some concerns in
Mhm.
regards to online piano lessons.
I think my biggest thing to say for anybody with a concern about online music lessons, try
Exactly.
it. See if that concern's still there.
Yeah, exactly. So thank you for today.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, great.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.